And welcome back to another episode of Chaotic Good Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Kate.
And I'm your co-host, Nate, and today we're talking Twilight.
Yay!
So,
I'm
Kate,
so excited.
yes, I know this is one of your favorite movie series and book series. Personally, I have only seen them. I have seen the movies, but like only when they're on, with other people. Like you go to visit someone and they've got it on in the background or whatever. I haven't really paid close attention to them. So I guess my first question for you is when did you read the books first or did you watch the movies first?
So I was a little bit of a purist and I read the books first.
Okay.
I was
Wait.
actually introduced to it through my grandmother, who had found the book at a book fair that she went to. And she was like, well, all these teenage girls were like so excited over this new book. I figured I'd have to get it for you. And my
Oh, that's
grandmother is
sweet.
like, she was the number one person that I could talk about books with because she and I had very similar tastes. And so that was a gift for my 13th birthday was Twilight.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm glad you had such a close relationship with her. So I'm guessing you were a kid when you read that.
Mhm.
Like teenager, young kid. Take us through like your history with the books.
Yeah, so the first book was initially published in 2005, but I wasn't introduced to it until about 2007, 2008.
Okay.
Um, and that was right before Eclipse was going to be published. So I got my copy of Twilight and blazed through it in like a month, I think, maybe less. And it's, not a small novel by any stretch, but I ate that shit
Sure.
up. And then I was like, Mom, I have to go to Barnes and Noble. I have to go get New Moon. I need to know what happens
Okay.
because Stephanie Meyer, being the writer that she is, kind of left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger, as a good writer should.
Right, of
And
course.
so we went and got a copy of New Moon, and um, that really sunk in its teeth in me. And I was like, okay, this is too good to put down. I need to go get the third copy. And so the third book came out in August of that year. And this is when it was really picking up steam because they had just signed the movie deal, and the movie was supposed to come out in 2009.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah,
this was before any of the movies had been made. You were already 3 books
yeah,
in.
yeah.
Got it.
And one of my mom's best friends lived in Minneapolis, and Stephanie Meyer was doing her book tour and
Okay.
happened to do a stop in like a suburb of Minneapolis. And I was like, can we go? Can we go, please? Can we go do the book signing? And so I got my copy of Eclipse, and my mom's best friend and I went to the book signing, and we waited in line for hours, as so many did. And I was able to get an autographed copy of Eclipse, and I got to ask her a question. And
Oh,
my
that's
question
wonderful.
was, are they going to get Bella's lullaby right? Because I was very concerned about the music aspect of it.
Okay.
And she said, I think they're going to do a good job. And so that was a lot of fun. As a 14-year-old, that was just like an amazing experience to be able to meet an author that I had really looked up to and
Yeah.
talk to her. Um, and then the following year, the movie came out
Mhm.
and changed everything.
It did. So on that, I do have to ask, um, Team Jacob or Team Edward?
um, I was Team Jacob from the get
Oh,
go.
okay. Team Jacob.
Yeah. I remember
Why is
going
that?
into um because after reading New Moon and learning how Edward handled, or lack thereof, handled his emotions around Bella's mortality, and how
Mm-hmm.
Jacob stepped up to the plate and took care of her and was there for her, and in all honesty would have been a much better choice for her. I was totally team Jacob all the way. I even got a shirt. I had posters. I was a twihard in high school. I
Sure.
was disgustingly obsessed.
Ha- has your stance changed over the years? Have you gone over to Team Edward instead?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No. I run with the wolves.
Nice. So what did you like better? The books or the movies? Did you have a preference?
Yeah, and like I had said, I'm a bit of a purist, so
So
the
you do
books,
prefer. Okay. Do
yeah.
you think the films maybe had something in it that you would have done differently or wanted to hear differently? Like, um, was there someone maybe you would have wanted cast differently, for example, for one of the characters?
Yeah, so, when Stephanie Meyer
There you go. You got it.
was writing the books, she had her own website, and she was posting playlists that she, uh, was listening to and created for the books, so it was, like, 1 or 2 songs per chapter,
Okay.
and, she had posted who she personally wanted to cast as each of the individual characters. Before the movies had come out, before they had cast the movies or anything, she had
Okay.
wanted, Emily Browning. I don't know if you know who that is.
I do
She,
not.
uh she played Violet Baudelaire in a series of unfortunate events.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do know who that is. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
she wanted her to play Bella.
Okay. That would have been a
Eh,
good fit, I think.
I agree. I honestly don't remember who she picked for Edward. Um, but I think as far as the current cast goes, they have been so cemented into everyone's minds as that's who they are, that it
Mhm.
would be hard to picture somebody else playing them nowadays.
That's fair.
Um,
So you do
s
think that for the most part it was perfectly cast.
I think they did an alright job. I think the perfect one was having Peter Fasinelli as Carlisle, especially with the blonde hair.
Mhm.
Um, and I was very surprised initially to learn that, Nikki Reed was Hispanic, and they made her
Oh,
look so pale and blonde as they did. I was totally picturing someone completely
wow.
different when I was reading the books. Um, but I had the hardest time wrapping my brain around the fact that Shark Boy became Jacob.
Yeah, yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. I was like, "I is that no, that can't be, is it?
And
It
it
is!"
was. It was. Yeah.
Oh, and honestly, I think just in general, he's a great actor. He's even done parodies of his character, in various forms too, and there's a really good sense of humor about things. I do think they have that one right for sure.
Yeah, he's such a wholesome person. I was
Mhm.
disappointed, though, to find out that he was also Hispanic and not actually Native, because I was so hoping that they were gonna stay, like, true to the Quileute tribe and hire as many indigenous actors as they possibly could, which for the most part they did. Um, but for Jacob, they didn't, and I was like, "That's kind of a bummer."
Yeah,
But
unfortunately, there is a long history of a lot of different things that cause that. We can get into that one on another episode if you like, but there's reasons. They're not good reasons, but they're reasons.
yeah.
Sorry. Uh, what? What was your favorite book, and is it the same as your favorite movie?
Um So, favorite book, I really liked Eclipse,
Okay.
and it's for a really cliché reason.
Oh.
I love love triangles.
Ah, okay,
I
okay.
I love the trope of 2 men vying for the same woman, and, "Pick me! Choose me! I'm better for you, Bella!" And, "You've always known it was me, Bella, it can't be any other way," and, ugh, it was so dramatic, and I
Yeah,
eat that shit up. I mean, I know it's not reality, and that made
even
it
better.
more enticing for me. And I think they did a really good job with the movie with, picking specific scenes in that and whatnot. And I loved that they included Jasper's backstory in that one and
Oh,
Rosalie's in that one, because
mhm,
those were pretty mysterious characters for a while there. Um, I'm disappointed they never really got into Alice's, but then they later on explained why, and it's because she can't freaking remember.
mhm.
Um, but my favorite movie out of all of them is actually kind of a tie.
Okay,
I really, really loved New Moon. I loved the colors in it and the tone, the overall brown tone that they had in it, and I
sure.
loved how they explored Bella's depression after Edward left and how Jacob was just kind of always there for her,
Mhm,
and the special effects with her hallucinating that Edward was there anytime she was doing something dangerous or risky, because that is an aspect of psychosis that can happen when someone's that depressed. And then meeting the Volturi was such like a, "Okay, here we go. We're adding some depth to this and everything.
mhm.
We're upping the ante. We're upping the stakes of the story."
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and
So
then the other one that it was tied with is Breaking Dawn Part 1,
okay.
because their wedding was one of the most important events in my mind to happen to Bella and Edward, because everybody was like, "Just fucking get on with it already."
So, why do you feel that that is, the one of the biggest, most important scenes?
Because it's what everything was leading up to. Because in order for her to become a vampire, Edward had made the condition that he was not going to take Bella's virtue away from her unless they were married,
Mhm.
and he would not change her into a vampire unless they were married. And we all wanted to see Bella turn into a vampire because we're like, that would be so cool. I want to know what her special ability is. Because from
Sure.
the get go, Edward couldn't read her mind, and no one could figure out why. She was the exception to the rule. And so we're like, maybe when she becomes a vampire, that could be a special ability, just how like Edward can read minds and Alice can see the future and Jasper can
Mhm.
control emotions. So when the wedding happened, there was so much detail that went into the movie that was left out of the books, where
Okay.
I was like, they created this magnificent scene in the middle of the forest in Vancouver. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of girls who were twihards growing up were coming to the age in adulthood where it was okay to, start getting married and having babies and stuff. And so they wanted
Sure.
to model their own weddings after Bella's.
Okay. Is that something that you have considered?
Oh, absolutely. um, I loved the thought that went into including all the greenery and the wisteria and
Mhm.
Bella's dress. Oh,
Bella's dress,
let's just
okay.
take a moment for Bella's dress. I can't even remember who designed it. I wanna say it was Vera Wang, but I could very easily be wrong. Um, but the detail on the back of her dress, and it was so
Mhm.
modest. And
Yeah,
I think
it was a very well done, I can't imagine many people being able to afford anything nearly as cool as that.
people
right
have been
now,
able
but
to create replicas of it
really,
on yeah, and
that's got to
post it
be
on
so
social
difficult.
media. Yeah, the lace backing with the
Hmm.
beads going
Hmm.
all the way down the train and the shoes. Oh my god, the shoes. And I remember when part 1 came out that Hot Topic was actually selling, replicas of Bella's engagement ring. That
Okay,
giant oval with,
mhm.
like, a million different diamond facets in it, and I actually had a copy myself.
Nice, nice. Do you still have that today?
No.
No, that's fair. That was a
It's just
little bit
yeah, it was
ago.
just costume jewelry, it wasn't
Fair.
anything yeah.
Now, you did mention that one of your favorite aspects, was the change to the brown tones. What are your
Yeah.
feelings of the blue tint that it started with?
So, I didn't know this until years and years later, but that's kind of like a Catherine Hardwicke stamp, I guess,
Okay.
because she kinda did a similar thing with The Lost Boys, and, I think because the book series was seen as kinda indie for a long time, because it was just a romantasy about vampires, which has
Sure.
been done before, um but when you get an indie director like Catherine Hardwicke to pick up a script like that and be like, "Let's make it our own," of
Mhm.
course they're gonna add the blue tint. Of course they're going to make it look as indie as possible because 'cause they're trying to appeal to that demographic of
Right.
teenagers who don't necessarily like mainstream media movies.
Right.
And
Kinda the Juno vibe.
yeah, yeah, I would say a little bit more, 'cause, like, looking back okay, a little bit of backstory.
Mhm.
Um, During COVID, I binged Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, a huge Buffy fan, huge. Spike was my
Same.
favorite character out of all of them.
So and then I also watched The Lost Boys, and then I watched Queen of the Damned.
Oh,
And
also good
I've
ones.
seen the '90s version of Interview with the Vampire with Tom Cruise in it. I
Mhm.
haven't read the books, but looking at all of those tropes, I would be willing to bet that that was what Stephanie Meyer was trying to emulate with Twilight.
Sure, I could see
She'll
that.
never say that herself, of course, but I feel like there's too many similarities for it to have not been a possibility.
Right.
And so when you get a director who's familiar with that niche of filmmaking, that's what you're gonna get, and I feel like that's
Mhm.
what they were aiming for when they came out with Twilight.
Do you have like a favorite moment either in the books or in the movie?
So in the books, um, one of my absolute favorite scenes was when okay, I have 2.
Okay.
Um, in the books, my first favorite scene was all of chapter 13 in Twilight, which was they're in the meadow and he's confessing to her, like, "This is what I am. This is what I'm capable of doing. You should be afraid of me. I am not the good guy. I am the bad guy. I am the monster in the closet you need to be hiding from."
Mhm.
And she's like, "I don't care. I love you anyway." And that whole scene ended with him saying, "And so the lion fell in love with the lamb. What a stupid lamb. What a sick, masochistic lion." Um, and then in Eclipse, the whole scene with him proposing to her.
Okay.
Um, it was his mother's ring. It had a lot of sentimental value to him. And that was when it was another confessional. I like it when the man confesses his love for the woman. It's just
Sure.
a lovely scene. And, um, in the movies, I okay, so New Moon being one of my favorites is it's so simple and it's so sweet, but there's a scene where Bella and Jacob are in his garage working on motorcycles.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's an
And
iconic scene too.
yeah, and okay, the soundtrack for New Moon is arguably the best.
Ooh, yeah, we
and
gotta get into the
they
music too.
oh, for sure. They had timed the scene perfectly with the backtrack to that, and, so there's that one. There's the scene where Edward proposes in Eclipse, that was also
Mhm.
another favorite, and honestly, just because it wrapped things up so beautifully. Oh, wait, 2 of them. 2 of them from Breaking Dawn Part 2. The
Okay.
first one being where Bella is getting pissed off at Jacob, and she says, "You nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster," and that's the first time that I think any of us hear Kristen Stewart, like, yell. Um, which is so good to see because 'cause we're like, "Oh, wow, she has emotions."
Right? On that note, do you think that she was or that, Bella as a character, um, was a good protagonist?
No.
No?
I think she was relatable at best. Um,
What would you
especially
have, changed, or what did you find, frustrating or difficult, with that character?
that so much of who she was dependent on a man.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I kinda had similar thoughts on that too, like, it was, "If I'm not with the right guy, then I can't exist," kind of a feel, and I found that strange.
Well, a lot of teenage girls do feel that way, which is why I said she's very relatable in that
Okay.
aspect. Is they feel that level of devastation after their first heartbreak, you know? Um,
Sure.
but the fact that she was so hung up on becoming a vampire that she wouldn't even consider Jacob. She wouldn't even consider the human who was her best friend, who was there with her through the worst of times, who
Mhm.
could make her smile, who could make her laugh, who brought out the fact that she had her own personality, that,
Mhm.
her world didn't revolve around Edward. And that was a really, really good scene in Eclipse towards the end after the big battle was, um she said Jacob was her son because he brought so much light into her life to the point that she didn't feel that hole in her gnawing anymore. But Edward was a moon and he was eclipsing Jacob to the point that she couldn't even see him anymore. And um it was really frustrating for me as a reader to see that regardless of how badly Edward treated her, and regardless of his reasons too, that she still went back, that she still chose Edward, that she still wanted to be a vampire. And I mean, there was a point where she was like, "I don't even care if Edward does it. I wanna become a vampire." And for that, I'll give her a little bit of credit because she knew what she wanted. But yeah. Um But the last scene that's one of my favorites from Breaking Dawn Part
Uh-huh.
2 is the final scene where she projects her mind barrier and, lets Edward in so he can read her thoughts, and she shows him every single moment that has been around him and her love for him and the love they share for Renesmee.
Mhm.
Ragnarok.
Yeah, those names, I mean, I got questions on those names. Like, I
We all did.
understand, but why?
Because Stephanie Meyer was running out of creative juices, I guess. I don't know.
Renesmee, that it doesn't roll off the tongue very well, and
No.
naming your kid after Ragnarok?
No, for Nesme. It's a combination of their mother's names, which is
Yeah,
sentimental and sweet, but, like,
it's still
her only other option was Edward Jacob? Like, come on. Bella needs a little
it
more creativity on that front.
yeah, it fell a little flat.
A little bit.
Um, So you've mentioned a few of those, and like them having the child, Renesmee. What were your thoughts on the birthing scene?
So that one, technically, like from a technicality point, I think they did it pretty well. I think the special effects were pretty spot
Mm,
on.
yeah.
In the book, because it's from Bella's perspective, she's fading in and out of consciousness. And
Okay.
her only concern is her child and that her child survives and where she's feeling the pain because she can feel every location where Edward is biting her in order to inject his poison or not poison, venom.
Venom.
Excuse me. Um, and she can kind of hear the muffled sounds of Jacob and Rosalie arguing over, give me the baby, no, give me the baby, throw that thing out the window and all that jazz. Um, And then after she's injected with the morphine and her back is broken and she can't move, she is feeling every burning moment of turning into a vampire paralyzed. And so when they're doing that in the movie, the flashes between her like clawing at her face and her skin and screaming in agony and then flashing back to her being perfectly still is because of the morphine and her spine being broken.
Okay.
Until the venom repairs that. And the whole discussion between Carlisle and Edward of, is she gonna make it? And Carlisle's like, "I don't know because I've never changed anybody who's been in this bad of shape before." Um, it was intense as it should be.
Mhm.
Um, I I can probably get a lot of people to agree with me on this one. I don't think they did Renesmee very well with the CGI and the baby part of
Ye
it.
yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. It seemed like uncanny valley.
Yeah, yeah, it kinda was. But, like, the baby was supposed to have been born with, like, a full set of teeth and having the cognition to recognize and match faces to voices. So it was like mentally Renesmee was probably at, like, a 3 or 4-month-old level and, having just been born. Um, what I will say that they did really well was showing how while Bella was pregnant, showing
Mhm.
how the fetus was literally sucking the life out of her
Yeah.
and showing how Kristen Stewart was becoming increasingly emaciated. And the background music to that was phenomenal as well. But the birth scene itself, yeah, I feel like they did what they could with as few
Mm,
details as they could garner from the book
sure.
itself, just because it was from Bella's perspective.
Um, yeah, that's fair. When they do make those changes, to show more than just the single character's perspective, but to show everything going on around it, it really
Uh-huh.
does kinda it doesn't necessarily change the vibe of the scene, but sometimes they do have to get creative and improvise a few things.
Uh-huh.
Was Stephanie Meyer, available for, consultation on those?
She's been an executive producer on all of the movies.
Okay, like I said, I know so little about this series. I'm really glad to have your perspective on this then.
Yeah, and
Um,
she was actually in a couple of scenes. She was in the cafe with Bella and Charlie in the first movie.
oh, I
She
didn't
had
know that.
just said, like, "Thank you" to the waitress after she ordered a cake, and she was sitting at the counter writing.
Oh, that was her.
Um
Okay.
Yeah, and then she was there for the wedding.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we've touched on this a little bit. Music is really important to both of us, and music also is very important to this whole movie series. And
Mhm.
like you said, even with the books and with the writing too, she had come out with a playlist to listen to while reading the books. Do you think that the soundtrack of the series did it justice.
I think it gave it a whole new depth to the movies.
Okay.
Um, so a lot of the playlists that Stephanie Meyer had created herself for the books had a fuck ton of Muse. That is her
Okay.
favorite band. And
Muse was featured in the movies as well.
yes, so Supermassive Black Hole was one that she had handpicked
Okay.
for Twilight. Um, and I feel like with the other movies and their soundtracks, I feel like with New Moon, it gave it an even deeper indie vibe.
Mhm.
And with Eclipse, it was okay. It wasn't my favorite. Um, but I feel like they made it darker with the
Yeah.
Eclipse soundtrack, and I feel like that was a necessary point because they had just come back from Italy and they were running against time to figure out, okay, who was making all of these newborn vampires, and then was it the Volturi? But the Volturi are coming for them, and Bella's not a vampire yet. And then with Breaking Dawn, because the movies had become so successful and so popularized is when they started getting some of those bigger names on the soundtracks, and I do feel like it took a little bit away from the indie vibe, and it took away
Okay.
from what made Twilight special. Hey everyone, it's Kate. We're going to take a quick break and hear a couple of words from our sponsor. Hey, real quick. This episode is brought to you by Dubby Energy. If you're the type of person who pulls late nights watching anime, gaming, or deep diving into lore wikis, Dubby is basically made for you. It's a powdered energy drink, zero sugar, no crash, no jitters, just clean focus in whatever flavor you're into. And trust me, the flavors are anything but boring. Think Japanese yuzu, s'mores, tropical punches. They've got some wild ones. One scoop, some cold water, and you're locked in. Check them out at dubby.gg and use our code CGR26 to get a 10% discount. Okay, back to the show.
Okay. Well, then here's the a big question. Paramore and Muse both had huge influence on the feel of the movies. Who do you think represents the kind of theme or anthem better?
Paramore, hands
Paramore?
down. Um, Haley Williams wrote Decode for Twilight.
Okay, I didn't realize that was written for the movie. Okay.
She had
Okay.
read the books right as they were coming out and fell in love with them just as all of us did. 'Cause she was probably, what, 18 when the first book came
Sure.
out? And they had had such success with Riot and All We Know Is Falling that they were like, hey, we want you to be on this soundtrack. And so she came up with a completely new song to add on to that. And then the other one that was on the Twilight soundtrack was Caught Myself.
Okay.
And I think I don't know if she wrote it for Twilight, but it definitely fit in so perfectly with the dynamic that they were trying to come across with Bella and Edward, because Bella was already head over heels for this mysterious figure of a man, and she's trying not to reveal all her, not show her hand too quickly.
Right.
And I feel like that song really portrays Bella's reservations, shyness, awkwardness perfectly.
Okay. And then remind me, who was it that did the score for the movies?
Carter
Um,
Burwell.
do you think he did a good job with the atmosphere to match some of those songs?
Yeah. Um, so this is kind of what I was concerned about when I went to that book signing with Stephanie Meyer is like, are they going to get Bella's lullaby right?
Mm-hmm.
And before the movie had come out, there was another song, a River in You by Yuruma, that was just
Okay.
like a really pretty piano ballad. And I remember at church camp, everybody and their dog was learning how to play that. and
Sure.
it's a beautiful song. But then the movie comes out and Bella's Lullaby is there, and it sounds nothing like what any of us had predicted. But it was simple enough that Robert Pattinson could learn it. So those
I
scenes
That
where
was
Edward is,
important, I think.
yeah, the scenes where he is playing the piano for Bella, that is actually him. That is not a body double. And come to find out that Robert Pattinson is actually has his own track on the Twilight soundtrack.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
know that.
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
so the song that's playing over the speakers when they're in the cafe and um they're in Port Angeles and she's ordering the ravioli and the waitress is hitting on Edward and he's completely disinterested in her and he's like,
Mhm.
"But what if I'm the bad guy?" The song that's on the speakers is him.
That wow, that's a fun fact I did not know. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was cute. It's precious.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so moving a little bit past this, past that, do you think, and we touched on this a little, do you think that Twilight has made any kind of an impact, positive or negative, for young adult books, or pop culture in general? Um, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, 100%. I would put it up there with some of the most major books of, like, most impactful young adult fiction, like, from 2000 until now.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say of the 21st century because we're not even halfway through it yet, but,
Right.
um, but putting it up there in the same category as Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, Marvel movies, it was that big. It had that much of a fan base. It still kinda does. I mean, there's
Yeah.
theaters that are still doing like, so last year was the 20th anniversary of the first book's release. So there
Okay.
were a lot of movie theaters that were doing Twilight marathons,
Okay.
and there is now a Forever in Forks Twilight Festival that the town of Forks, Washington hosts every single year. And they frequently have one or two cast members from the movies come and do talks. And last year, they were able to get Stephanie Meyer to come and do a segment and talk.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now that's pretty big to have the author and basically the creator of such a big pop culture empire to show up.
Mhm.
Because I know they've all got such busy schedules. So then here's a question for you. What do you think has been more influential, Twilight or Harry Potter?
I think they're equal. Um,
Really?
yeah, in America. I'll put that caveat on there as in America,
Okay.
'cause, with Harry Potter having a British author, I think she had a more global scope of a fan base than Twilight did.
Okay.
Um,
That's fair.
yeah, but I think they're equally impactful because there's a lot of crossover in the fan base. You know, I knew plenty of girls in high school that were twihards that loved Harry Potter just as much, and a lot of them shared similar opinions of, "Yeah, it's not that realistic," or, "Yeah, there's these issues that," are like,
Yeah.
"God, come on, I wish this character wouldn't have done that," but
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I feel like you're gonna get that with any work of fiction.
Yeah, that's fair, and, significantly less, controversial, at least. We can go that route.
Well, if you
So do
wanna
you
talk controversy.
Oh, I think we could go on for days with so many of those subjects. What, what do you think, though, about a possible, modern remake? Do you think they'd be able
So,
to pull something like that off, even get the right crew? Would it have a different
um
vibe entirely?
so, uh, I saw an interview recently that Kristen Stewart did at the Cannes Film Festival,
Mhm.
and someone had asked her if they were going to do a Twilight remake, if she would be interested. And she said, 100% absolutely, but she gets to direct it.
Okay.
And with how successful her first film is doing right now,
Mhm.
I think it would be fantastic. I think if they could recast it and have Kristen Stewart behind the camera, making sure that X, Y, and Z things went a certain way and they weren't going to be putting a poor teenager in that position again. And Robert Pattinson had even said he would be down to do a remake, and I'm pretty sure Taylor Lautner would be too. It's just some of the other casts that were like, "No, we did it once. We're not gonna do it again." Because like,
Sure.
I don't feel like they're gonna get Anna Kendrick back. I don't feel like they're
Probably
gonna
not.
get Nikki Reed back, or, um, gosh, I can't remember her name. Ashley Greene. There we go.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, no, a little bit of controversy, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so this is kind of getting into the lore and theory about Twilight is that
Ooh, educate me.
because yeah, so um because Stephanie Meyer was raised and I'm not sure if she's still practicing, but Mormon, um, there's a little bit of backlash towards her about having the Cullens and having them as kind of like a pure, virtuous group of people that are all white. Most of them are blonde, kind of
Yeah.
representing the Mormon church. And there is, and I don't know how well known it is, but there is a belief within the Mormon church that the Native Americans that were present when one of their prophets had landed in the Americas, that they had darker skin because they were descendants of the bad brother of this prophet. So this prophet had two sons, a good one and a bad one. And the good
Okay.
one lived on to become the righteous people and furthermore the Mormon church. And the bad ones were cursed with dark skin. Uh-huh. And so people are correlating that the vampires are supposed to be the good ones and the darker skinned ones being the Quileute tribe, being the ones that were cursed with, turning into werewolves. Um, the way that
Ah.
she explains it in the books is a little bit different. She does do a bit of backstory on the Quileute tribe and how the werewolves came to be. And they
Okay.
do it a little bit in the movie. They give it like a scene or two
Sure.
of
It's supposed to be more as a blessing, not a curse,
more
from
of
what
a
I interpreted.
genetic deformity.
Oh?
Um, yeah. Um, and it doesn't necessarily correlate with any like actual Quileute tribal legends or anything like that.
Okay,
Um,
so it's just this random thing she kinda picked out of the ether and was like,
yeah,
"Here, let's do this."
yeah.
Okay.
Um, but there are some people that are comparing Carlisle to the Mormon Church's original leader, Joseph Smith, and deciding to part ways with the Catholic Church, which would be represented by the Volturi,
Consultory,
who are
okay.
up in their little castle in
Mhm,
Italy that's walled off, and they've got a certain set of rules, but they're allowed to eat humans. They're allowed to drink wine, and Joseph Smith had an issue with that. So
mhm.
he goes off to create his own more virtuous church. Um, and this is all conjecture and theory. This isn't
Okay,
anything that
okay.
I believe, anything that's actual true to, you know, Mormon beliefs or whatever, but a lot of people are saying that's where she got the inspiration from and why it was so important for Edward to marry Bella before they had relations was because
Oh, I
of
see.
that conservative belief of keeping your virtue until you're married, and that those who had darker skin were technically impure.
Yeah,
Um,
we could.
Stephenie Meyer has
Oh,
disavowed this time and
okay,
again.
okay, okay. I was just about to say we could go on about that forever, but please tell me she does not want anything to do with that.
No, this is not
Okay,
her belief.
okay, okay.
From what I have read from her herself is
Mhm.
that Twilight, the book, came from a dream that she had of this beautiful sparkling boy talking with a human girl in a meadow, telling her that he's a vampire and that he loves her, but he doesn't want to kill her.
Oh,
And um
that's a pretty productive dream.
yeah, it's pretty vivid. um but like I yeah, and then she fleshed it out and it turned into the book Twilight. And
Sure.
originally, she was going to end it with him turning her into a vampire, but her editor and publisher were like, "But what if you could make it a series? This is so good.
Mm,
What more can
okay.
you do with it?" Um, so plot-wise, she had actually planned on doing Eclipse next. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. New Moon wasn't even a thought until her editor was like, "You need to give them a reason to have a little more tension in the relationship. You need to give Jacob his story, his background, his relationship with Bella."
Okay,
Um,
okay. So
so
that's
she was
interesting.
yeah, she was kind of forced to write New Moon, which is why it's not a favorite for a lot of people is because it does kind of feel that way.
Okay, like, I haven't read the books, but, it feels more of a forced writing. So would you say that might be your least favorite of the published books?
No.
No, what is your least favorite?
Breaking Dawn.
Breaking okay, why is that?
Um, it's a little too happy.
It's too I have never heard someone say, "My least favorite thing is this because it's just too happy."
So, the book is broken up into 2 parts, a before and an after.
Okay.
The before being the wedding, the honeymoon, her finding out she's pregnant, and the
Mhm,
pregnancy, and then the after is after she is turned into a vampire.
mhm.
That whole fight scene in Breaking Dawn Part 2 doesn't happen in the books.
Yeah, I've heard that there was a controversy over that as well, as to why they thought that was necessary for the movie when it wasn't how the books end.
They wanted to for shock factor
The
primarily,
shock, okay.
um, and they needed, more time in the movie and an opportunity to show off everybody's abilities too.
Sure,
Because like, what is the point of gathering all of these really cool vampires with these kick-ass abilities if all they're gonna do is freaking stand there and have an argument, you know? And, I really appreciated them including, Benji, Rami Malek's character
oh,
in there,
yep,
and all the things that he could do with it too.
mhm,
Um, and yeah, Breaking Dawn, it wrapped things up in a very neat, tidy little bow, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted the series to keep going. I wanted
sure,
them to up
oh,
the stakes yet again.
okay, so you were hoping for more and then she ended it, and you're like, "But why?"
Yeah.
Okay,
I wanted them to do a story with like Jacob and Renesmee and him being like the watchful big brother as she grew up, or doing a novella about Alice's backstory and how she found Jasper, or, you know, going into the other clans of
sure,
vampires. She wrote a
fleshing out that
novella
universe.
about it's called The Short Second Life of Bree Tanner, and it takes place in Eclipse, and it's about the one vampire girl, like she can't be more than 15 or 16, that
Mhm.
the Cullens were going to save so long as she agreed to not eat humans. And, you know, she was kind of in a live or die moment, so of course she agreed before the Volturi came in and killed her.
Mhm.
And it was about mostly what was happening with Victoria and Riley and how they were training their newborn army.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was really good. It was a really cute, short little novella that was in the series. She's written a couple of other things to go with the Twilight series. Midnight Sun, which is Twilight from Edward's perspective.
Yep, I was just gonna ask about that, and, Life and Death, I think, was the other one?
Yeah, that's the gender bent version. So, the vampire is a female and the human is a male.
Okay.
I have copies. I haven't read them.
Okay, okay.
I know I need to, but, just haven't gotten around to it. I also have the Twilight Illustrated, guide that
Okay.
goes through and explains all the characters, all the clans, the werewolves, the special abilities, and a little bit of the biology behind vampirism and how it came to be and how it works turning someone into a vampire.
Really?
Yeah,
Is it any different from, most other mainstream pop culture, beliefs of vampires and how they're
yeah,
portrayed?
yeah. The way that she explains it is their venom essentially crystallizes the human body, um, but
Is that why they
enab
sparkle?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And if you look at pop culture and other forms of vampirism and Twilight, the vampires from Twilight are much closer to fae than they are
Mhm.
vampires.
Yeah, absolutely. They seem more of a magical being and not like a cursed, spooky being.
Right. And they end up producing their own venom very similar to blood. Um, and that's why in order to kill them, you need to dismember them and burn them in order for them to not come back to life. Because it's explained a little bit in Eclipse too, that even if you
Mhm.
were to decapitate them, their body will still go reach for their head to try and reattach it, and the venom will be the glue that holds it back together.
Okay.
Yeah. And that because it is a viscous fluid, um, that would explain why an incubus or a male vampire can impregnate a human woman, which explains how Renesmee came to be.
I was gonna kinda touch on that too, because normally in vampire lore, um, for all purposes, they're dead. They don't
Yeah.
have anything like that going on.
Mhm.
Like, they don't have any cell growth but they don't have any cell death either. It's, just is what it is.
Mhm. It's like
Um,
a permanent state of being.
right.
Yeah.
Damage can be repaired, but it's not replaced. It's just somehow
Stitched back
healed.
together.
Yeah, 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 on like a weird cell level, but yeah. Um, so that is a lot different so then they produce what, an unlimited amount basically of this venom stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. And it lubricates everything. I mean,
Like
for
they're a
lack of a better term.
machine?
Yeah. Yeah, kinda like a machine. I mean, they don't necessarily produce saliva, it's just venom. They don't necessarily have fluid in their eyes, it's just venom. They don't
So
necessarily have
their tears,
elbow
their spit,
grease,
their blood, their everything is
is
venom.
venom. Mhm. And in order for someone to turn into a vampire, the human doesn't need to bite the vampire back and drink the blood like they would.
Here's a weird question for you.
'Kay.
A little bit of a sidetrack. What
Yeah.
would happen then if a werewolf or if a vampire would try and turn a werewolf? Is that possible?
Um,
Because in other pop cultures, it happens. Others, it can't. Where does this fall?
I would say it's mostly unexplored territory
Okay.
because the vampires are so repelled by the scent of werewolves that I don't think they'd even get close enough to try.
Oh, okay, okay. They're like, "I don't
Um,
even wanna take 'em, but, like, no, no."
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, even in their human state, I don't think that would happen. I think for the most part, the Cullens just kinda tolerate Jacob being around just because he imprinted on Renesmee, and that whole concept.
Yeah, I've heard that explained to me in different ways. There is not a single way that doesn't sound creepy. They all sound weird and strange, and
the
it's like, you from f the most common one that's been told to me is when you imprint, it's going to be, like, either your child or your mate, and if it's your mate, you stay the same age until they're the age that you are physically, and then you both age together, which sounds gross because you're imprinting on a baby.
Yeah.
Please tell me
So
I'm wrong in how that was or how I understood that.
the way it was described in the books was um similar to how they described it in the movie was that when a werewolf imprints on a mate, someone who is genetically compatible with them to carry on the werewolf gene, um they are essentially spiritually tethered to that person for life. Whether or not the person they imprint on chooses them back is a whole other thing.
Okay, so it does not affect the other person's anything unless they choose. Oh, okay. Well, that's a good thing.
Um, the way it was described in the book was like a million steel cables were all directing Jacob towards Renesmee. That was his reason for existing. In whatever capacity that she wanted him, he was going to be there for her. Whether it was a big brother, whether it was a best friend, whether it was
Okay.
eventually a mate, it's dependent on what Renesmee wants. Um, the way that I initially interpreted it was more of like from the biological standpoint of like a bird imprinting on its mother.
See, that's what I had personally done as well. Like, oh, so he's like essentially baby birding her.
Yes and no.
Like the protective uncle, like I'm the godparent, but I'm always going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Um,
That's more the vibe that I thought I was picking up myself. So when that other was described, I was like, ew.
yeah. And there were a lot of fans that took issue with it too because they were like, then why was he so attracted to Bella for so long?
Also true.
And Bella came to the belief that Renesmee was the reason that they were in each other's lives for as long as they were. But it's like, he's not gonna imprint on an egg, you know?
Right.
Um,
Um, so why didn't he imprint on Bella?
the way it was described in the illustrated guide was because she is not genetically compatible.
Oh, okay, so that wouldn't have worked for the werewolf clan to begin with.
Mhm. Oftentimes, the werewolves imprint on someone from the tribe who is genetically compatible enough to carry on that lineage.
So here's another little bit stranger question. Um, so Renesmee is like half human, half vampire, right?
Mhm.
Does that mean she can like have children when she's an adult, the same way any other human would? Um, and then would those genes be passed down, creating like a whole line of like super vampire human hybrids?
So I've heard that Stephanie Meyer gets asked that question a lot, and she kind of
I'm
hedges around
sure.
the answer. Um,
Because you want to talk
because
about a potentially powerful clan of like, you know, forever living beings. There you go.
right. Um, so her answer is that because she stops growing at adulthood, which
Hmm.
is about 7 years, um, because, Alice and Jasper went to South America to find this other group of half human, half vampire hybrid kids that
Hmm.
this incubus had created. They brought one back with them to explain things to Bella and Edward because they were terrified that because she was growing so rapidly, she was going to die soon.
Hmm.
Um, but because of his half human traits, he's, still alive and he grew. But because of his vampire traits, he stopped growing and he has lived for 150 years. Um, so the thought is that because Renesmee is a female half vampire, that she no longer has reproductive abilities.
So only the male half vampires would be able to.
Because it is a constant state of production that is a fluid fueled by venom instead
Got it.
of eggs. Yeah.
Got it.
It's a lot to think about, and I
That
feel
is.
like
That is. And that like it's getting into like nerdy theoretical genetics, and I'm here.
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm here for, right there. That is
Yeah.
what I am here for.
Yeah.
And then what would happen crossing like a half vampire human thing with a werewolf? What would those kids look like?
Yeah. I think what would have to happen for that to occur is that the hybrid person would need to be male and the werewolf would need to be female.
Right.
So, like, you would have to pair up someone like Nahuel with Leah.
Hmm.
Um, but
Would they have like the I transform traits and also the I live forever traits while appearing and functioning as a human?
I don't know. Um, but the
Because
interesting thing about werewolves, though, is their aging stops every time they transform. So that's what makes Jacob and Renesmee kind of an ideal pairing is that he can turn into a werewolf and he's not going to age so long as he keeps going back and forth between werewolf and human.
oh, so in this call or in this universe, being in werewolf form, yeah. So if you stay in wolf form more than you don't, you can essentially live for hundreds of years and then not be a big deal.
Mhm. And I
Okay.
might I'm not 100% sure, but one of the old tribal leaders of the Quileute tribe lived to be like 150, 200 years old.
Okay, because they spent so much time in wolf form.
Mhm.
Now, is that why they encourage the kids to, join that, hunting group early on, learning how to control or whatever, and transforming and running through the woods a lot? Does that have any
No.
influence on it?
Um, the werewolf gene is triggered by vampiric presence.
Okay,
So, in Eclipse, when the newborn army was being created and there were more vampires within the vicinity of the werewolf tribe, that gene kept getting triggered in kids younger and younger and younger. And I think the youngest one was like 12 or 13 when he made his first transformation.
okay,
And that's why Jacob was kind of stepping in. He was like being the grandson of Samuel Black and being the leader and saying, "Hey, let me guide you through this process because it's terrifying."
okay, okay,
And so, the more vampires in the area, the more werewolves there are gonna be.
okay, so, is there an explanation in the books as to why uh, vampires have to be present for that to trigger? Like, is it a like maybe a defense mechanism of some kind, or is it just the the venom itself triggers something in people?
The most that she goes into detail with that is just the magic of the Quileute tribe and that gene being triggered.
Okay.
She goes into it very vaguely in the story of, I think it's the second wife, when she's describing the Quileute tribe in one of their ancient encounters with a rogue vampire who was nomadic and happened
Mhm.
to show up in the area. Um, and it triggered the chieftain and his 3 sons to turn into vampires. And the vampire had killed one of, I think, the first wife and one of the sons in vampire form. And then the chieftain had killed the male vampire. And then several weeks or months later, I'm not sure, his mate, his female mate came back to get revenge. And and I think this is part they show in the movie too, is the chieftain was losing his fight against this female vampire. She stabs herself in the gut.
Mm, like,
And it distracted her long enough for the chieftain to kill her, but then he lost his wife too. So the Cullens first arrived in Forks, I wanna say in, like, the 30s or 40s. This was before Alice and Jasper had joined them, and it
okay.
had triggered several of the Quileutes to transform into werewolves, and that's when the treaty agreement had started. Like, "We'll stay on our
Oh,
side, you stay on your side, we're not gonna bother each other, and don't kill any humans." And they're like, "Yeah, sure, fine." And then they left, and 75 years pass, and there's no werewolves anymore.
sure.
Um, and then they come back in, like, the early 2000s,
Mhm.
and, um, there's more of them, so that triggers more werewolves to transform, but that whole gene had skipped Jacob's dad and
Sure, there was
Harry
nobody in
Quib.
that generation that encountered any. That makes
Mhm,
sense then.
mhm. And then Bella shows up in the picture, and
That's kinda where we pick
that's
up,
where the
really.
whole thing starts.
Alright, any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Something about Twilight I genuinely love that I'm willing to defend unapologetically.
Yeah, let's hear that. I would love to hear what hill you're gonna die on here. Not metaphorically, metaphorically, metaphorically.
Um, Bella could have been better.
I I think even some of the most diehard fans would agree with you on that one. Um, for me, seeing it as a outdoor or outside perspective from the fandom, it felt very one note. Like,
Mhm.
she's regardless of what's going on, it's fake smiles, it's always depresso, it's always bad. Everything's awful. But she's trying to portray that it's not, but I don't know exactly what the motivation was supposed to be, but, the acting really felt one note.
Yeah, so that's in 2 parts, is that Kristen Stewart was very monotone in her performance, but also that the character of Bella herself could have been written more in depth and less male-centric.
Right.
And that's the hill that I'm willing to die on, is that Bella is too male-centric.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So,
Alright,
alright.
well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Like, share, comment, and, let us know what are your favorite books and movies or your favorite scenes, even the favorite music that you have, from any of the movies.
What are your hot takes on Twilight?
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. Alright. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.